Hey y'all, it's Virginian-Patriot. This was in last week's Virginian-Pilot paper. This was on August 11th. Today is Sunday, August 19th of 2018. And inside this article, which was plastered all over the front page, I mean, there's a few other articles, but this was the dominant one. And it was regarding the whole Charlottesville crap. And the the primary headline was "We lost our naivete," and then down here in the secondary headline, "A year after white supremacists marched through its streets, sparking violence, Virginia City struggles to heal its wounds." I find it very fishy about how they labeled everybody that was down there um, at the Robert E. Lee protest for the statues and all, how they were labeled white supremacists, and that was not the major source of people down there. Most of the people that were down there were protesting the removal of any of the Confederate statues, and yet the Virginian-Pilot decides to go ahead and cast everybody that was down there as white supremacists. And that's a bunch of crap. And I found a few things that I highlighted that I thought were rather interesting. It says blame for law enforcement that didn't protect citizens. Well, yeah, because they were told to stand down. By who? Most likely the city council. So yeah, blame the local government. And yet they were also saying blame for the university. Well, I looked on the maps and it didn't show anything that, or as far as where that statue is, where in close proximity it was to the educational system. There's only one school, and it was a middle school. So if you want to close that down, or have the kids go home early so that they didn't have to deal with any sort of wrath, whether it got heated or everything was calm as a cucumber, fine. That's one argument. But for them to sit here and say, "Oh well, the university should have blame on its hands because they didn't keep their students safe." I mean, give me a break. And this chick here, this Bryant chick, is a high school student, and it's funny because, and I'll come back. Actually, I'll come back to her in a minute. But in the paper, it goes on to say blame for President Donald Trump for not speaking out unequivocally to condemn the marchers who had spewed their racist views. He did. He said there's blame on both sides, and he doesn't think that what was taking place down there, all the violence, was worthy of anybody's decency. He said there was blame for both sides. Come on now. And you're going to sit here and say, "Oh, well, he didn't unequivocally condemn them." He did. Goes on to say, and they know their community is defined to some extent by the racial violence that erupted downtown August 12th during the Unite the Right rally, and the night before, when 200 self-proclaimed white supremacists marched through the University of Virginia campus, chanting "Our blood, our soil, and Jews will not replace us." Excuse me. Now, I have problems with that too. Out of the so-called 200 people, there were only probably, I've heard numbers of maybe 50 people that were legitimately white supremacists. And it's a very small number. So you're talking about 150 people that went down there to protest the removal of statues, because now when people see these statues, it kind of prompts them to want to know, okay, well, what was this statue all about? Who were these people? You start taking these statues out of sight. Well, now you're changing history, because now people don't know how to or who these people were, to look them up and figure out more about them, and what were they about. You're whitewashing history. That's, in a nutshell, what you're doing. And on top of that, the Virginia Code which is in another video of mine. I've already done, and I've pulled up the code and put it in the video. So there's no, oh, well, he's just, paraphrasing it. It's up there, and it's in my video called something to the effect of "Do as I say," or citizen request city council to remove statue or whatever, something to that effect. But look it up. So it goes back into the article. A lot of people here were uncomfortable with what happened on August 12th. Said, let's just unite and move forward. So then, that's 17-year-old chick. Yes, she's a minor, but hey, she put herself out there in the public, so guess what? You're going to get noticed. So that chick there goes on to say, a student activist about to engage her senior year at Charlottesville High, but there hasn't been the work to go back and reckon with white supremacy. Before we can move and heal as a community, we have to reckon with that. In other words, let's beat white people over the head some more about how slavery was so bad and it so traumatized us. Chicky Poo, you did not even live through that, all right? You didn't even live through the 60s when a lot of that Jim Crow crap was going on. So don't sit here and bash us over the head because you don't know anything about what it is. You want to keep dwelling on it and playing the victim card. So then she goes on to say, for Brian and others, well, actually she didn't say, but for Brian and others, that means addressing gentrification and paucity of affordable housing in the city, ending in stop and frisk policing, improving educational opportunities, and importantly, Bryant said, amplifying the voices and experiences of people of color who are disproportionately affected by racial violence. So again, let's bash white people over the head until, we're basically wiped off the face of the earth, because that's about what it's coming down to. I've heard enough crap where people are just like, nope, we got to get rid of white people. And speaking of getting rid of white people, New York Times recently hired Sarah Zhang, a Korean who actively spews the most vile filth about white people. And she would love to get rid of them. In fact, if she saw someone an elderly person, by one of her tweets, getting harassed and all, she would welcome it. And she wouldn't have any problem with it continuing. And I bet you she would join in on it. And this is the crap that I just can't stand. People dwelling on it and playing the victim cards. How about you pull your bootstraps up by yourself and do what's right and work hard? So this other person, Sophie Schuchtman, was in celebratory mood. And so she was welcoming this kind of crap. She and a large group of like-minded protesters had stood up to the hundreds of white supremacists and Nazi sympathizers. No, they were not sympathizers. They were trying to protect what was there because they knew that removing these statues would whitewash history. You are then changing history. Who had descended on her hometown, forcing their rally to end before it began. So she went down there knowing that these people were going to be down there. And, she was looking for a fight. In fact, which I totally forgot to highlight. Let's see, where was it? So the protesters shouted back. There were chemicals sprayed and pitched battles in streets. Fists and bricks and bottles flew. The city police and Virginia State Police troopers did not even intervene because they were told to stand down. In fact, when this stuff was going down, the police told them, for those that were trying to flee, they're like, oh, you can't go this way. Well, at the other end, Antifa was there. They were the ones who were throwing this crap. They're the ones that always show up with bats and and knives and bricks and bottles and throwing it at people. They're the ones that are always doing this stuff. It always gets found out that it ends up going back to Antifa. So Antifa was throwing this crap along with the people that were opposing white supremacists. So they were the ones throwing this crap. And then, yet, they don't even, in the paper, it doesn't even say that the Antifa people were there. And so then you have the police that are saying, well, you can't go down this way. Well, you have to go down that way. That's the only way out. Well, Antifa's down there. Well, you're not going this way. So the police knew what was going on, and it's what they call in police terminology, and you can ask them about this, define kettling. Kettling is when you're surrounded on both sides and there's no way out. And it's a tactic to make things or make people or suspects react in a violent manner. So if these people are being corralled into a corner and there's no way out, and they're trying to escape the danger, well, of course they're going to defend themselves. You know, give me a break. So then down here, so we're done with this column here. So down here, it has become more clear that to everybody that we need to be fighting oppression in all forms, she said, and we need to be fighting white supremacy that shows itself in everyday life here in Charlottesville. That sounds an awful lot like what Chris Cuomo of CNN was saying recently. He was saying that, oh, well, not all fists are equal. What? So in other words, if there's a bigot or anything like that, it's okay to throw punches and fight people because, well, it's okay. You're fighting hate. Yeah. How about stop touching people when it's not warranted, unless it's self-defense? So this person here, Wes Bellamy, who's 31, is a city councilor who helped to push the city to remove a statue of Robert E. Lee from a downtown park. Again, it was downtown park. It wasn't on city, or not city, but the university's property. It was downtown where all these shops and all are. So, yeah, but yet they want the university to notify the students. Well, that's not their place. Their place is to educate. So, yeah, he also was helped stoking the fire by removing this. And again, under Virginia law, you cannot remove veteran statues. Last I checked, Robert E. Lee is a veteran statue. So at the end, it says, if we skirt around the issues, we're not going to get anywhere. Let's put it on the table. That's what I think we've done in this community. Just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean we can't talk about it. So if it makes you uncomfortable, we can still talk about it. But if that statue makes you uncomfortable, well, we have to get rid of it. What in the world are you talking about? That is hypocrisy beyond belief. It's so contradicting, it's not even funny. But yet, they want us to bow down, or at least white people to bow down, to be bashed in the head about slavery and all that other crap. Oh, and while I'm at it, because I just remembered, they sit here and bash all this stuff about white supremacy, and yet who are they putting in the picture and giving homage, or not homage, but notoriety to? The Communist Party. They were down there too. Have y'all heard of Yvette Larka? She's the leader of BAM. She's a big communist. And what do you think she's going to, these people are going to do? These communists don't stand for anybody that has a differing opinion. You have a different opinion, guess what? We're going to kick the crap out of you. So, I just think this is very funny that the Virginian-Pilot is going to sit here and say, oh, we put legitimate and good journalism in our paper. No, you don't. You smear everybody with a wand and paint everybody as a white supremacist. When I've heard the numbers were around 50. 50 people that might have been genuine white supremacists. And then everybody else was like, no, this is an issue if we take the statues away. What a bunch of crap. So yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if everybody saw it in the paper. You know, if you're able to find it or track it down on the internet, feel free to definitely give it a read. It's pretty gobsmacking. I have a bunch of papers, not of this here, but a bunch of papers with just absolute garbage. The Virginian-Pilot is nothing but a joke. Very biased. So that's all I have to say. This is Virginian Patriot signing out.